Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ryan with Growth Stimulus Training. I'm just on the road, and I actually pulled up a YouTube video. I was directed to this video by somebody who made a comment on one of the GST Facebook photos that I've recently put up. And actually, the video, it's from a guy named Berto, and I've done a little looking into him, and he seems to be like a real well-respected natural bodybuilder. He's also a training coach, an online training and nutrition coach, and I believe his company goes by 3DMJ. I know that I hear Matt Olgus mention 3DMJ quite a bit, and it just looks like this Berto guy really knows his stuff, and he knows what he's doing, and he appears to be doing it for a very long time as well, which obviously I respect a lot. I think that experience says a lot about somebody, and just the fact that he's stayed in the game, in that lifestyle for so long, tells me that he truly does have a passion for it deep down. He truly enjoys it, and I think that says a lot about somebody. So I just have to say that, Berto, I really respect you, and I liked your idea on the video that I watched. And the video that I watched was your video about the fact that you don't need to be obsessive compulsive about hitting specific macro numbers each day. You don't have to worry about hitting 53 grams of fat and 212 grams of carbs. And I've honestly been preaching that concept for a long time now. It's the backbone of my nutrition approach, and it's something that I've been recommending to people for years. And I've been doing that because personally, I've gone through that time period where I was obsessive about my macros. When I would figure out my dieting needs, I would do it strictly through mathematical formulas, right down to the specific gram of each macronutrient. And I have to say, I believe that that's something that a person probably needs to go through or should go through in their initial path or their initial steps to becoming, a pro veteran of the gym, or just a veteran of the gym, or a veteran in the kitchen, I should say. This deals more with nutrition than the gym. Somebody could follow this advice even if they don't train in the gym. But I think that's a step that everybody's going to take. As a beginner, you're going to make those initial mistakes, and you're going to stress over things that don't actually need to be stressed about. And I think counting and aiming to hit exact macros on a daily basis is one of those beginner concepts that a newbie or a beginner or a rookie or a novice is going to go through, and they believe that it's the way at the time, because when you're a beginner at something, initially, you feel like you're a know-it-all, and that's just the general cycle of growing up and maturing anyways. When you're a teenager, you feel like you know it all, and obviously a lot of these people that are counting their specific macros right off the bat are in their teens, and they believe that it's the only way. But as you gain experience in the nutrition game and you age and mature a little bit, you open up to a new idea, realize that you can do research and that you can learn and you can try new things, and there might be a better way. And I believe that not stressing and not focusing on specific macronutrient intake is one of those better ways. Now, the way that I look at it, Berto, it's a little bit different than the way that you look at it, because you actually recommend ranging in total caloric intake per day. Whereas the way that I look at it is I will tell people to shoot for a specific total calorie intake at the end of the day. So if somebody's recommended to eat 3,000 calories per day, I don't like to see a swing in that from day to day. I like to keep it constant, because I feel that when you're tracking, you're recording, and you're finding out new things about your body, as in how your body reacts to a certain calorie intake, I think it's best to keep it constant. It's most logical to me, and it makes the most sense that if you're trying to figure out how your body reacts to a certain calorie intake, you should indeed hit that calorie intake on a daily basis. So that's one thing that I guess we differ on. It seemed like you had a range that maybe was swinging maybe 200 to 300 calories per day, depending on whether that person rounded up and hit their macros or whether that person rounded down and hit their macros. I should say that for an experienced person, or for anybody, beginner or experienced, a swing of a few hundred calories per day during a time where it's not pre-contest, that swing is not going to really affect results in a major way. Overall, as long as they're still in that surplus or in that deficit, they're going to be moving towards their goal at hand. So, Berto, I just want to say it's not a diss on you. It's just a way that my concept differs from yours. So, when we're looking at my method, you're shooting for a set target calorie intake per day. And now, the way that I do that is I will initially figure out ideal macros for each person. But then what I do, so let's say that I figure that 200 grams of carbs is the ideal macronutrient intake for this individual. What I'll do is I'll figure how many calories that is. That's going to be 800 calories worth of carbs. Now from that point on, I know that for the most part, when you're eating, when you're focusing on natural micronutrient dense foods, for the most part, you're not going to be eating foods that contain large amounts of multiple macronutrients. And one example of that would be, let's say that for your carb source, you're choosing a sweet potato. Really, that food is just providing you with carb calories. So I call it a primary carb source. You're eating that because it's natural, it's micronutrient dense, it's clean. Now, a food that would go against that grain and would basically include large amounts of grams of carbs and fat is going to be something like Doritos. It's a man-made, clearly not natural, and it's not going to fall into that typical category known as clean by many people. I don't really recommend eating those foods, and if you want to go that way, feel free. And the approach that I'm laying out is, it's not really the best for you, because I'm trying to stick to a rough macronutrient amount, but I'm not trying to be specific with it. So I like to stick to those foods that are natural, micronutrient dense when possible, and clean, because they're primarily going to supply you with a protein, a carb, or fat. And so what I'll do is, back to that 800 calories, which comes from the 200 grams of carbs, that person simply needs to eat 800 calories worth of primary carb sources throughout their day. It's real simple. Let's say in the morning they want 200 calories worth of their carbs. All they have to do is figure out how much oatmeal equals 200 calories. And that's simply what they'll eat. They're not going to worry about the trace amounts of fat or even the protein. They're not going to worry about that because it's a primary carb source, and we're trying to keep it simple, and we're trying to understand that the exact gram of carbs at the end of the day is not what's important. It's important that you're in a range. It's important that you focus on a primary calorie intake, a predetermined goal, daily calorie intake, with a rough focus on daily macronutrient intake. And Berto, I essentially feel like we're talking about the same thing, and I feel like really the only major difference is the fact that you're allowing that swing in calories where I'm really not. I'm sticking to the solid calorie number at the end of each day, where you're swinging 200 to 300 calories per day. I think that's the only difference. We both agree that a focus on total calorie intake per day with a rough focus on macronutrients is the ideal way to go. It's less stressful, and it proves itself to work. I mean, you're a very respected individual. You have a very respected physique, and the proof is in the pudding right there. I mean, you don't stress over specific macros, but you have a physique that rivals, many of the people that do preach specific macros. And that's something that needs to be said. I mean, that's worthwhile to think about. Real life evidence is definitely something that needs to be considered and thought of as important. So I just wanted to respond to your video, give you a general rundown of what I do, and tell you that I think that is totally correct, and I think that focusing on specific macros is too stressful. I think it's something that beginners have to go through, but something that beginners should quickly grow out of as soon as possible and move on to a more thought out approach based on a total caloric target number with a rough macronutrient target number. I think I've said what I wanted to say. My trip is almost over, and if you have any comments or questions about this topic, feel free to post them. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching.